how do you calm someone down who is angry? Oftentimes at work, at home, at the masjid, you're talking with someone and the person gets angry. A person is upset. And as you know, as we discussed, that when someone is angry, they're not thinking 100%. Their judgment is off, their cognitive ability is off. And so that person is actually, and you yourself, if you're angry, you're actually subhuman. You're not at a proper state of mind. And so you cannot engage that person when he or she is angry. So you have to help the person calm down. In other videos we talked about how to calm yourself down. Now you're dealing with someone who you want to help to calm them down. So there are a few ways you can help someone to calm down. Number one is, first and foremost, is acknowledging that they're angry. You have to recognize that they're angry, and not that they're just having a conversation, or they're making a point, or that's their argument, or that's their analysis of the issue. Recognize the emotion that's happening at the moment. So you see them getting angry, and you see the signs, their teeth, you see their eyes, you see that they're starting to blame you, you see that they're starting to defend themselves. And as soon as you see that, you want to acknowledge, oh, I'm sorry, it seems like you're upset. Just by saying that, 50% of the time people calm down quite a bit. Just by you acknowledging and letting them know. Because when someone is raising their vocal cord and they are producing more air through their larynx, it just means that they feel that they're trying to make a point, or they're trying to say something and it's not being heard, and they're hoping by raising their volume that somehow it's going to be heard more, it will be established more. And so when you see someone getting angry and someone feeling upset, you want to acknowledge that, oh, I'm sorry, it seems like you're upset. So you're saying sorry not because you made a mistake. You're saying sorry because you're sorry to see them to be in this negative state. So you said, I'm sorry, it seems like you're a little upset. Memorize this line. Okay, memorize it. I'm sorry, it seems like you're a little upset. And say that with genuineness, with care, with love, with compassion, with concern. Say that. I'm sorry, it seems like you're a little upset. Prophet ﷺ, one time he told Aisha anha that, I know when you're angry, and I know when you're happy with me. She said, how do you know that? He said, because when you're happy with me, you said, oh, by Allah, by the Lord of Muhammad, sallallahu. And when you're upset with me, you don't say that. You say, by the Lord of Ibrahim. So you don't even want to say my name. And so Prophet understood when his wife, when she's upset and when she's not. So recognize it. And as soon as you recognize the feeling in the room, let them know that you know. So number one, being able to recognize the feeling. And also in recognizing it also means you understanding the underneath feeling. We talked about in other videos about the 7 sort of the underneath issues that are underneath your anger, from guilt to you feeling tension, to you feeling hurt, to you feeling like you're not able to express your opinion. All these underneath feelings, recognize it, and sometimes even say it. So for example, a teenager, you ask them to come down and join the family for whatever discussion you're having, and they slam the room and go, get off my life or whatever. What they're trying to tell you is that I want to assert my independence. I don't want to be told when I should be doing things. I don't want to come down because you're telling me to come downstairs. Right? They're trying to assert the independence. So you have to say that. Oh, I'm sorry. It seems like you're a little upset. I know you feel you're a teenager and you are your own man, your own woman. We get that. Your mom and I, we get that. Your father and I, we get that. And just by you saying that, they might still be upset. They might still slam the door. They might still not come outside or whatever. But you will acknowledge that feeling in the room. And so, very important to just acknowledge what's really going on. The feeling that's in the room, you want to be able to acknowledge that. That's number one step. I'm sorry, it seems like you're a little upset. Now, let me make sure to mention this to you, that sometimes some people don't like the word anger. So if you tell them, I'm sorry, you seem like you're a little angry. They say, no, I'm not angry. What do you mean I'm angry? Because anger means you're out of control. Anger means you're a bad person. So nobody wants to be told I'm a bad person. And so sometimes you don't want to tell people that they're angry, that word. Instead you want to say things like, I'm sorry, it was a little bit, maybe perhaps you're a little sensitive to that. Oh, I'm sorry, you seem a little upset. Or that seems to have bothered you a little bit. So use different words, because some people don't like the word anger. And if you tell, especially if you tell them you seem angry, they will not accept it. Even though they are angry, but they're not gonna accept it, because I don't want to be the person who's angry, because I don't want to be the master, right? And so you have to sometimes mention to them that they're upset, and you recognize it and say, I hear you, I see you. See, anger is basically them raising that volume, exerting their muscles a lot more to let you know, please hear me and listen to me and understand me. That's what they're telling you. So when you tell them, I'm sorry, I see that you're a little upset about this, then continue the conversation. You will see that they will feel like they're being heard. They will feel like they're being understood, that you're acknowledging them. See, sometimes when people get upset and angry, first thing you do, okay, let's do this. Right away, try to solve it without having mentioned that that I see that you're angry. So mention that. Actually say it. Memorize that line. Very, very crucial. Once you recognize even the underneath feeling, say it. You are sitting down and you moved a plate from here to there, and all of a sudden your sister gets upset. And that upset is not from you moving the chair this way or leaving the computer here. It's really because they're upset about yesterday. So you recognize that, mention it. I'm sorry, you seem a little upset. I know yesterday, and then you just mention that. Bring it up on the table. What exactly is going on. So that's number one, being able to recognize the feeling. Number two, sometimes use humor and exaggeration. I have a whole video, so most of you probably have watched it already, about how to use humor and in your conversation. How to exaggerate, because it's so useful. When you take things lightly, it's really helpful. So when someone's getting upset, you don't have to take it seriously all the time. Now, I want to be very careful here. If someone's getting upset and the issue is very sensitive, you don't want to make a joke out of it, because that is a very sensitive thing. But sometimes when there's a light argument and the issue that involves the argument is very petty, learn to joke and tease about it, so that you calm down and they calm down, and then you can say I'm sorry, or they can say sorry to you. You allow for that to happen. If your son and daughter comes home and they're young, they're 5-year-old, and they learned some curse word in school, you can hear them saying it to you because you didn't give them the whatever, or they don't want to eat and they threw the food away and they said the curse word. And you get really upset, like, where'd you learn that? Who said that to you? You get really upset and you get angry, they get angry, and then it just goes nowhere. It's screaming and crying, and then maybe a spanking, and then it goes nowhere. Instead, if you sort of took it a little lightly, you say, that's a very interesting word, or you say, shh, that's a secret word, you can't say that, and you make like a light joke about it. You will see things will de-escalate. You go inside and you find your son and daughter made a big mess in the play area, and you go in there and you get really upset. Oh my God, I have to clean all this up. And you go in there and start, instead of that, be playful. Instead of that, you go there and you start to fake cry. Oh my God, I'm going to clean this. Kids love when you fall down, right? Because they will fall down all the time, toddlers especially. So you roll around, fall down. Why are you doing that? You're not doing that because you want to legitimize or be okay with the fact that they're making a mess in the house, but because you're upset at that moment and you're not going to be a good parent. So by you doing that, you de-escalate yourself and de-escalates them, and then you can address it. Then you can say, okay, you move to the side, help mommy clean up, and you can do that. So learn to exaggerate, learn to have humor. Prophet ﷺ and Aisha Anha, one time they were in an argument, and voices were being raised, and Abu Bakr Anhu walks in. Abu Bakr, the father of the wife of the Prophet. And so Aisha Anha, she's raising her voice, and Abu Bakr walks in, and he sees this, and he's upset. How can you talk to Messenger of Allah like that? But obviously she's having an argument with her husband, who is the Prophet of Allah. But her father walks in, and he's a beloved of the Prophet, and Abu Bakr can't take this. So why are you raising your voice to the Nabi of Allah? And he gets upset, and Prophet literally had to hold him back. He was about to go go at it to his daughter. And the Prophet had to hold Abu Bakr back by the waist to make sure. And then when you hold him back, calmed him down, and Abu Bakr left, a person turned around and said, how am I going to protect you from this man? In a light-hearted way. And you can imagine they must have been having an argument right before, but after this incident and Prophet making a light remark and de-escalating the situation, you could imagine their argument calmed down. I mean, he said, how can I save you from this man? And their conversation went beautiful after that. It's a way of being able to de-escalate the situation. Not taking things seriously, not turning everything into a meeting, into a legal court case. Take it easy. And so the more details, if you watch the video from before, I talked about joking and teasing. You can find more examples and tips and tricks there. But here I want to say to you, number one, acknowledge the anger. Number two, learn to de-escalate. Number three, finally, learn to use ways to change the pattern. So you have to change the pattern in the moment. So the words you use, when someone is angry, the more angry and louder they get, the more calmer and slower you speak, and the more loving your words become. You will see the impact. If they're screaming and you're screaming, it doesn't lead to a good solution. So the more they're screaming, the more quiet you get, the more slower you speak, the more loving you speak. You could change the pattern by what's going on in the room. I remember there was a board meeting at a masjid, and people were getting loud and shouting. All of a sudden, this uncle, this is again this example from using humor. He got up and said, "Brothers, I am missing my 10 o'clock news because of this." And everybody just started looking, and they started laughing, and because people smiled, even though they were just upset because he said something so out of the ordinary, and it took people out of the perspective because they were all of a sudden going at it, in the meeting. All of a sudden, people just backed up, like, "Oh, okay," Or the other brother, there was a little bit of argument after Salah. This brother literally started reciting Quran. He said, "Ya ayyuhallazina amanu, all those who believe, that innal mu'minuna ikhwa," and he started reciting all sorts in ayat from the Quran. And from Surah Hujurat, he started reciting Quran really loud, and everybody like, calm down, because he changed, he shifted the pattern. So shift pattern. One sister told me that when her another sister was getting into argument, she went and just hugged the sister in the middle of the argument. She went and hugged the sister. Now be careful. If someone's really upset, they might get a slap. But but I mean, if that they're safe, and he just went and hugged the sister in the middle of the argument. I bet you the argument didn't stay like that. It calmed down quite a bit. So change the pattern. Like your uncle, maybe when you're young and you're a little irritated or upset, and uncle keeps saying, hey, Muhammad, and then keeps on pushing you, and you're like, I don't want to hear it. And then after a while you giggle and you tickle, right? Because he shifted and broke your pattern. So break people's patterns. When they're in the angry, upset mode, break the pattern through the words you're using. Break the pattern, through your own body language. Break the pattern through the focus that you have them on.